All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel, and now actually welcome back to the NBA. We have a 9-game slate on today to jump into like we always do. I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. Absolutely free if that does interest you, down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. Yesterday, in that one game back, we go 1-1. Unfortunately, LaMelo Ball over 6.5 assists. That does not come through, but we did hit our same game parlay that we did have LaMelo in. That was 5+ assists from him, 5+ assists from Luka, and then Miles Bridges 15+ points. So it was nice to hit that. Obviously, LaMelo 1 more assists. We cashed both of those. But anyways, it was a small slate, just one game. I'm not going to get too beat up about a 1-1 night. Our bigger play was the same game parlay anyways. So yeah. Not all that ashamed of that. It was a juicy -148. That's why I called it a nasty little 3-legger, but we talked about that. We posted it on Instagram. Make sure to follow me at EvPicks if you are interested in some more fun plays that we do over there. One spot that we can give some credit to and honestly say, yeah, we were back last night. Omri is back to hitting the ride of the day. LaMelo Ball over 34.5 PRA. We missed on his assists. We probably just should have pivoted to something points included. He had his PRA over 34.5. He had 27 points. Was it 6 assists and 5 rebounds? Something like that. He did hit the over his PRA, and Omri now cashes yet another ride of the day. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day or ROTD down in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. You get a shout out on my Twitter/X as well, which will be rotating here shortly, as well as on the Guy Boston Sports site with the final plays. If you win, we continue to ride with your plays. If you lose, you get the shout out. We got to talk about it and drop the womp womp from the soundboard. So get those hashtag ride of the days in there. Looking forward to seeing if Omri can keep the streak going today. All right, guys, let's jump into this slate. It's been a while since we've said that because even yesterday was just one game, but hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let's get going here. We're starting off with what I think could be a fairly good game here. We have Philly taking on Boston. Obviously, the Celtics are the better team this year. They're sitting at 39-16 on the year. Philly just 20-34, which is like yikes status. But they're starting to get healthy. Embiid is coming back. I don't know if that's really impacted them all that much. Like, I personally don't think Embiid, even though he's had some big numbers games, I don't think the team has looked all that great since he's come back. They've lost 5 straight games. They've lost 7 of their last 10. Meanwhile, the Celtics kind of looking like the Celtics of, I don't want to say of old, but before they started to kind of slip up. They're 8-2 in their last 10. They're 6-4 against the number in their last 10. If this number gets any bigger, I'm not as comfortable with it, but I like the Celtics here minus the 7 points. I just think that they're the far better team in both places, offensively and defensively. The one sort of credence I can give to someone that likes the Sixers today is this Sixers team obviously likes to play the Celtics tough, right? We've seen them play twice this season. The Sixers covered in both of those. They won on Christmas Day as 9.5, maybe 9-point dogs, and then they lost by 8 just at the beginning of this month, and they were 12-point dogs. So they covered, right? So the Sixers will keep this close, but this is the smallest spread we've seen between these two. Now, it is in Philadelphia, I will say that, but even still, the Celtics, last time they played in Philadelphia, that was the game at the beginning of this month, they won by 8 points, so they would have hit this line. I like the over in this spot as well. We look back to these teams and their competition versus one another, you're hard-pressed to find many games that go under this line. We did have one last season, a couple last season, if I'm not mistaken, but most of the recent games, just like the 2 this year, 118-110, 116-114. We had a game in December last year, 125-119. I do think that we could see some points. I worry about taking an over here when I think the Celtics defense is really starting to lock in, especially throwing the fact that their paint defense has really started to lock in, and Philly with Embiid back obviously is going to start shooting the paint a little bit more. That's my concern, but 223.5 just seems a little bit too low. I have this pegged at honestly as of right now like a minimum of 224, which is a half point of margin over that number, right? Now, from a player prop perspective, we got a couple that we like. I think my favorite one in this spot is going to be taking a peek at Kristaps and his three. So he's hit this in both games against the Sixers this year. Right now, his line is at 2.5 for plus 145. I don't like the 2.5 if this thing gets down to like plus 115, plus 110. But at plus 145, I really don't mind this spot. He's hit it in 5 of his last 10 games, so 50%, but we're getting a better number than, say, 50% probability in a sense, right? Like we're paying a far less premium price tag. On the season, he's hit in 48% of games. On the road, 31. But if you look at his last road games, he's averaging 2.1 threes per game. But what I actually like is his last 10 road games here and his attempts. He's attempting 6. So he can go up there, have a good shooting night, hopefully score, shoot 50% from 3, which he's done plenty of times this year, and cash 3 right now. There's also been 3 games within his last 5 games on the road that he shot 7 threes. So I do think that we could see an uptick from him, especially throw in the fact that if he has the Embiid treatment in terms of defense, I don't think Embiid's going to be, especially a hobbled Embiid, going to be running around the three-point line chasing Porzingis, right? And I also don't think Porzingis is going to prioritize trying to big boy it up down low, with Joel Embiid down there. So yeah, I like Porzingis to stick around in the perimeter. I also don't mind some Tyrese Maxey spots here. This is a Celtics team that, yes, they're very good defensively, but where you can get them is going to be in the pick and roll and in isolation, and that's going to be the guy that does that for Philadelphia. Now, when we look at Tyrese Maxey's lines, we do have 25.5 for points, 5.5 for assists, which I wouldn't necessarily mind. That might be where I pivot to. Last time he played the Celtics, he had 6 assists. The time before that, he had 12. So maybe assists could be a look here. But yeah, Kristaps and Tyrese would be 2 spots that I consider player prop-wise. Keep an eye on the pinned comment to take you to the final plays, because I do think one of those could potentially be a play today. Maybe a sprinkle on Porzingis with that plus 145 price tag. All right, moving right along here. Indiana taking on Memphis. Now, I have to ignore the fact that Memphis is on the road, because I do like Memphis in this spot, okay? Last time they played, they were at home. They beat this team by 15 points, 136 to 121. I like Memphis in this spot for really one reason, and I think it's just a huge reason. Memphis likes to score in the paint. If you don't know that, now you know. You should know that Memphis loves to score in the paint. Indiana is not the best paint defense. In fact, we can jump into the dashboard, and I can show you right here, right? Indiana, paint defense, 4th worst on the entire season. At home, 4th worst. In their last 3 games here, 23rd. So what is that, 7th or 8th worst, right? No one in the last 10 games is shooting the ball in the paint more than Memphis. You can see that the number 2 scoring team in the paint as well. That worries the hell out of me if you are like Indiana, right? So for one reason and one reason only, I like Memphis getting to the paint. We should see a fairly healthy Memphis as well as a healthy Indiana team for all things concerned there. But yeah, I just think that points in the paint will dominate this, and you're only looking at a line of 2.5. We'll talk about how to get this dashboard in just a second. It's a perk of the members on the Guy Boston Sports site for a really low price tag. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, so stay tuned, but let's go through this game here still. So yeah, give me Memphis minus 2.5 points. I think that this one realistically could be like a 4.5 spread. The thing is, and I already kind of started this breakdown with it, yeah, it does worry me that we're seeing in a Memphis team, I was going to say an Indiana team, a Memphis team that is on the road. Like, they are far better when at home this season, but even with their cover rates on the road, they've been a good road team, right? Road team by that metrics, right? They're just so much better at home. Still 63% cover rate on the road. So that's giving me a little bit of like, all right, we have some confidence in this one. So, yeah, I think that they should be able to just control this in the paint there. Last time they played, obviously, there was no real answer defensively for Indiana here. We had, I think it was Jaren Jackson scored 25 points. Where does he like to score from? Oh, right, in the paint. Ja Morant, 19. Desmond Bane, 16. Marcus Smart, I think, had like 16, too. In fact, we had the box score up. Marcus Smart, 16, Santi Aldama, 15, 13 for Jalen Wells. Like, everybody scored last time out. Now, Indiana's defense, I can give them a little bit of credit. I guess they've gotten somewhat better and somewhat more competitive. They've been playing good basketball, but the Grizzlies, to me, just a better team in this spot. I don't know how many times I could say that. I'm rambling at this point. In terms of what we have from a total, it's just a little bit too high. We saw the last game soar over this number. I get it. Even saying soar over may be a stretch. It finished at 258, and that was a really high-scoring game. So I don't mind an underlook. It's tough because, yes, I think Memphis should score, and that would kind of contribute towards an over, right? But I think Memphis' defense can step up in this one. Indiana also likes to score in the paint. They'll shoot some threes, but they like to score in the paint. That's where Memphis' defense is kind of thriving right now. Throw in the fact that Indiana shouldn't be able to score off the isolation. They run a lot of pick and roll. Memphis is a decent pick and roll defense. I think that we should see some good defense out of Memphis. So I'm going to lean towards an under in this spot, but this one can make me look silly. You have two of the top pace teams in the league and definitely offensive versus defensive type teams as of late. So we could look silly if this thing gets to like 130 to 120 type of thing, but overall, I'll still lean towards an under. So another center threes prop that we like here in this video. This one, yeah, I'm not in love with it by any means. He hasn't really been doing it, but I kind of like the matchup here as he goes up against Zach Edey. I like Miles Turner. Over 2.5, you're going to get plus 162 right now. Again, similar to Kristaps, I'm not trying to tell you that I think he's going to hit 3 threes. I'm saying that the value on that plus money, I think we're getting a good deal in a sense, right? Now, we've seen this at 1.5. It's actually bounced around from last night to today, 1.5 to 2.5. So if you want to wait it out, you might be able to get a 1.5 for some serious juice. I think right now it's like minus 180. So yeah, I don't think we're really going to get a good number there. But if you can get 1.5 like minus 160, I would do that. But I also don't mind the 2.5 for plus 162. Now he's only hit this in 12 of his 46 games this season. Last time he did play Memphis, which was back in December, he shot 8 threes. 8 threes. He shot 25% from the field. He made 2 of them, right? He's a 39% shooter on the year. So if we have him shoot 8 threes again, I really don't mind that. Again, I don't think Edey's going to be chasing him around on the perimeter whatsoever, right? All right, guys, real quick, I mentioned the dashboard up here on the Guy Bosses Sports site, which is where you go from the pinned comment. The members area, you head over to NBA dashboard. We have an MLB one coming soon as well, which we loved the MLB dashboard last year, right? And you do have this dashboard, which you can open it up, you can print it out, zoom in, do whatever you want to make this easiest for you. But essentially, it's each and every game broken down, pulling from multiple sites and multiple sources to give us a visual breakdown of the game. We can see the team matchup in terms of who does what better. It's obviously color-coded as well based on league ranking. We have the player projections, which are still loading. We have a bunch of NAs right now, powered by our new site, Score Predicts with a PREDIX.com. Go check that out, guys. We've talked about it. That link is there as well. We have the score projections, essentially giving their stats for the day. Again, it's still loading right now. We have their offense, defense, shooting zones, field goal percentage. We have where they like to shoot from in terms of frequency, isolation, pick and roll, catch and shoot, pull up, against the numbers. Like a lot of cool stuff here, guys, if you do want to check it out. Again, we have it for each and every game, each and every day broken down in a visual format right over here on Guy Boston Sports. Now, if you're not a member, you're going to come in and see this, which you'll see kind of like, hey, which membership do you want? We do have multiple memberships available, so view membership levels. We still have, I talked about it yesterday, we still have the All Sports Dashboard membership available because even though we only have one dashboard out right now, which is the NBA dashboard, when MLB rolls around, this will be jumping a few dollars in terms of the price because the MLB is the best dashboard, in my opinion, that we have, NBA being second. So yeah, you can just get the NBA dashboard if you want. It's less than $3 per month, or you can get in at a good deal. So you also have the you're locked in at this price with the MLB. So yeah, we put a lot of work and effort into those things, guys, and we've had some great reviews from you guys. So yeah, for that low price, I think that we're definitely you're getting your money's worth. Instead of having to go through each and every site that you usually go through in your research process, a lot is consolidated here. So let's go ahead and get back to games here. I feel like I just spoke for a million minutes, but yeah, consider becoming a Guy Boston Sports member over on the website. Brooklyn taking on Cleveland. This is an interesting one to me because I have a couple directions I'm thinking about going. So I think this is a Cleveland spot. I can't deny that, right? They're so much better. This is a Brooklyn team that I guess you could say they're starting to get a little bit healthier, but not all that healthy, right? The starting lineup still D'Angelo Russell, Keon Johnson, Cam Johnson, Zaire Williams, Nick Claxton. Like, yeah, that's healthier than they were maybe a month ago, but they're still missing Cam Thomas, even Noah Clowney. Obviously, no Ben Simmons there anymore. So I still can't give any credit to this Brooklyn team in terms of, having their guys out there because they don't even have many guys to begin with, right? Cam Thomas would be a big deal, but overall. Now, they did go into the All-Star break playing some good basketball. They were 5-1 in their last 6 prior to that. Their only loss was against Washington, which I bet they wish they can get that one back. But overall, they're playing good basketball. But like, this is Cleveland, right? Cleveland went into the All-Star break playing damn well as well. In fact, they were 44-10 in their last 54, the first half of this season there. So it's like, I can't sit here and be like, Brooklyn's in a good spot. They're at home, out of this. No, last time they played, Cleveland won by 30 points or 29 points. That was in Brooklyn as well. So I'm going to lean towards Brooklyn. But one spot that I don't mind taking a peek at would be Brooklyn team total under. Right now, in fact, let's get an updated line for that, because I want to get this could have a chance of being a final play, because I like the defense here for Cleveland. So Brooklyn's team total under right now, you can go under 108.5, under 107.5. You're paying a decent amount of juice, a little bit like Jose Canseco in his prime. But yeah, I don't mind that. I mean, they've hit that in 9 of their last 10. Under 106.5 looks like it has a decent, minus 125. Okay, that's more aligned. We have minus 145 on MGM for under 107.5, and then minus 165 for for under 108. This is a Brooklyn team that, like I just said, 9 of their last 10, they've stayed under that. But against the Cleveland Cavs, let's go to this, right? Cleveland. In the 2 games this year, Cleveland's held them to 101 and 100 points, right? And then last season we had, Brooklyn scored 120, but before that, 95, 102, that was last season. So, I mean, we've seen this Brooklyn team in their last 5 games here stay under this line in 4 of them against Cleveland, and Cleveland's defense is good. So, yeah, I think that's like the way that I would play Cleveland in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of having to win by 14 points, probably sit there and be like, hey, just go play good defense, team total under for Brooklyn. So I like that probably more than any side or total in this game. And then player prop wise, nothing ultimately jumping out to me. Overall, we'll obviously continue to plug in and see if we find anything. And if we do add anything, it'll be in the pinned comments. But nothing major that I'm looking at. I consider Donovan Mitchell's rebounds, just because we haven't projected for a full rebound more than the sportsbook line. But it's still not all that enticing to me. It's just 1 rebound more. Speaking of 1, and a hell of a transition from your boy Ev, how about checking out Underdog? Because all we need is 1 point from Victor Wembanyama in his game tonight. If you're a new customer, you can sign up today. You get a deposit bonus up to $1,000, which is first and foremost awesome. And you get a free pick here in Victor Wembanyama. Again, he just needs 1 point. It can be a foul shot. It can be a bucket. He can dunk on someone. All counts the same for you to cash this square. If you guys don't know what Underdog is, you pick higher or lower based on player set projections in their app. You put 2 or more into an entry. The more you win in that entry, the more you get paid out. It's really, really cool. And here's a freebie to boost the payout, right? Victor Wembanyama, 0.5 points. So go check out Underdog. That link will be down below in the description. I'll also put it in the pinned comment, and it'll be on the Guy Boston Sports site by the final plays, whichever is easiest for you. If you just want to download Underdog or go to Underdog on your computer, use code Guy Boston when signing up and depositing, and you'll get all of the same perks. Go check it out. It's super fun. A nice, entertaining way of having more action on the game. Let's go ahead and jump into the rest of these games. We have, what is it? Did I say games? The rest of these games, I don't even know what accent that is. Irish. We got 6 more. Let's do it. Similar to the game we just looked at, Cleveland and Brooklyn, I like the Knicks in this one, but I think that number's a little large. Like, and when I say that, we're coming out of the All-Star break, right? We saw the Lakers, even with all their studs and whatnot, come out. I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could say flat, right? We kind of called an under there. We didn't roll with it ourselves, so I can't victory lap it. But we saw the Lakers just get beat as 12.5-point favorites by this Charlotte Hornets team. We didn't see a crazy game from Luka. He had 14, 11, and 8. LeBron had a good game though, a double-double, near triple-double. So like they just came out a little sluggish. Both teams did. I don't imagine it being much different from some other squads in the league. So that's why I'd rather, again, the Brooklyn team total under. And probably in this spot, I'd lean towards a Chicago team total under. I think that this is a Knicks defense that is starting to get better, at least click a little bit more, because if you look at their last few games, they realistically haven't had the best of, defensive ratings, but they played against Boston, obviously, Indiana, who's playing really well and fast right now, like we know the Pacers do, and they played an overtime game against Atlanta. So it's like their last 3 games aren't exactly the best, determining factor of their defense. I think their defense has started to look a little bit better, specifically against isolation, specifically against catch and shoot, which are 2 things that were killing them towards the beginning of the year. So yeah, I like Chicago's team total under here in this one. This Chicago team, I don't even know what to make of them. They have not been playing very good basketball ever since the trade deadline. It seems like they've given up. I don't want to throw the tanking word around, but like they're literally a team that if you watch them, they're walking up and down the court. Like it's if you haven't checked out Chicago basketball lately, I'd hate to say burn your eyes and do so, but if you're interested to see some bad basketball, that's what's happening. Right now you can get them under 117.5 for a team total. I think the Knicks defense steps up in this spot. My one sort of concern is the last time we saw the last two times, I think both this season, we saw these two teams, a bunch of points were scored. But Chicago won both of those. So maybe even New York sitting there being like, hey, let's step it up. You know what I mean? Let's play some defense here. But hopefully those last three games are not indicative of what we're seeing from this Knicks defense, and that was just because they went up against fairly decent offenses. So, yeah, I like the Knicks, but the way that I'd do it is considering the under and the Chicago team total under. Player prop-wise, nothing much is enticing. Like, yes, I like Cat. I also like Brunson. I think that they can score on this lack thereof, I should say, defense of Chicago. But I'm not, like, over the moon about it in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, their numbers are already fairly high. Like, we have them both projected to go for 27 plus, which I think would suit Brunson a little bit more. His line is, what is it? No, actually, his line might be higher than Cat's. I think it's like 28.5 now that I recall. So, yeah, neither one. We have them pretty much right at their points line. I don't see much value in there because their lines are already so damn high. All right, Atlanta taking on Orlando. I kind of like this spot, and maybe I'm a little crazy. I'm not sure, but I like Atlanta. I think Atlanta's starting to play some good basketball in the face of, I don't want to say adversity, but they traded some guys, you know what I mean? Like they are, and they lose Jalen Johnson. I guess you could say adversity. Clint Capella, Jalen Johnson, all these DeAndre Hunter, guys that started, even though Hunter moved to the bench, guys that had been starters for Atlanta, now right? And you've seen Trae Young kind of take on that workload, but also Dyson Daniels, Zachariah Richichet, like these guys have stepped up. And this is an Orlando team that I think you're catching in kind of a weird place right now. If Orlando was playing like they were at the beginning of the year, they never had those injuries, I'd be hard-pressed to say I like Atlanta over Orlando because I would say defense should dominate this one. But you're giving me an Atlanta team that I would say is playing good basketball overall. Efficient basketball even, I'd throw that word out there, which is crazy enough. Last three games, 8th in terms of offensive efficiency. They also score from the perimeter, which Orlando, I would say, is kind of allowed some buckets to come in through. 41.7% from the left corner three in their last 10 games, 56.3% field goal percentage from the right corner, and then 36% from above the break. Atlanta loves to shoot the three. We know that, but they'll also get in there and score. I think that Atlanta should be able to score off the pick and roll too, which they'll run a fair amount. So give me the underdog in this one. Atlanta's at home. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if I'd like Atlanta as much, and I'm making it sound like I love them. Like I do like it. It has a chance to be a final play, but I don't think that I'd be leaning that way as strongly if Atlanta was on the road, if that makes sense. But this Orlando team, yes, injuries and all, I understand that, but on the road this year, they've covered in just 34% of games. Atlanta's not much better at 45, right? But that's still an 11-point percentage difference. So if Atlanta runs, and this Orlando team is not made to run or built to run, if Atlanta runs, they could control the pace of this game, which I don't think is good news for Orlando. So give me Atlanta in this spot. Kind of like an over too, because again, I'm kind of banking on Atlanta controlling the pace, and this line is set right kind of in the middle of the sweet spot there in terms of you don't know what we're trying to read. Are they saying, whoever makes these lines, are they saying that Orlando's going to control the pace and pull it down, or are we saying Atlanta's going to up the pace and bring it up? Because Orlando has had lines lower than this recently, but Atlanta has had lines higher than this recently, right? So I'd say over because I'm backing Atlanta, but if you like Orlando, it's probably your mindset flipping to the under, right? Like I don't think that those correlate the opposite. And no player props that I'm loving in this one either. I know we've had a few player props, some that we kind of kick around, but we do have some more in the video as I battle a burp here. We do have some more, but just not in these last few games, I guess. All right, burp completed, meaning we can dive into this next game. We got Milwaukee taking on the Clips. I think it's going to be a good game. If Giannis plays, if Dame plays, we also have Andre Jackson listed as questionable, and Kawhi Leonard is listed as questionable. So a lot of guys to make this a quote-unquote good game, like I mentioned, would need to play for this to happen. But let's talk about this assuming that everyone is going to play, because I don't want to pick and choose. If guys don't play, then yes, throw what I say out. But let's assume these guys had a break for the All-Star game and are coming back good to go. So the Clippers honestly went into the All-Star break playing good basketball, but I don't know if I want to give them too much credit. They did have that quality win against Memphis, but they beat Utah 2 of those 3 games. So it's like, yeah, you won 3 games heading in. You got a good win against Memphis. I give you credit. but Utah was the other two, right? Milwaukee went in winning 2 of 3 games, 3 of 5. Giannis missing a decent amount of those as well. The way this Milwaukee team is going to score, in fact, we can dive into the dashboard and I can show you how I practically use it, right? The way Milwaukee's going to score is actually starting to be pulled out a little more towards the 3-point line. Now, Giannis has been injured, so obviously that's going to change. We can assume that, yes, they might still shoot these threes, but this restricted area number goes up a little bit, right? So when we take a peek here, well, the Clippers actually really struggling the last 10 games when it comes to preventing buckets at that restricted area. Now you'll see that their points allowed is actually pretty damn good in terms of in the paint. They're really good outside of the restricted area, but allowing plenty of points in that restricted area. But what this tells me is that teams aren't necessarily getting to the restricted area as much because a 73% field goal percentage against is terrible, right? So why isn't this number worse? Because teams aren't doing it frequently. So they're shooting at a high percentage, but not scoring enough points. If Giannis plays, that should go up, and I do think that that gives Milwaukee a slight edge here. Where I would say I start to give the Clippers an edge would be in this pick and roll. Like, this is clearly a bad position for Milwaukee to cover in terms of the pick and roll ball handler, and they have a guy named James Harden on the LA side of things that is pretty damn good. But overall, I think Milwaukee does what the Clippers do defensively. They stop the points in the paint, and they have some better numbers doing that. I think that Giannis is going to have a good game here, especially if he gets the Kawhi Leonard, Derrick Jones treatment. Yes, Kawhi's a really good defender, but I think Giannis is a little bit stronger and should be able to overpower him. They should be able to score in that isolation, which Damian Lillard is obviously a guy that we know that can do that as well. And from above the break here, you could see last 3 games here. And again, Utah was 2 of these games for the Clippers. Last 3 games, 29th. And Memphis was the other one, a team that likes scoring in the paint. 29th in terms of points allowed from 3 per game, to their opponents. So I do think that Milwaukee's going to be able to score from both spots, whereas the Clippers realistically only rely on the restricted area in the first place, right? They don't shoot a lot of threes, yet Milwaukee is decent at stopping points in the paint. So yeah, guys, comment 26 if you made it this far into the video, because that'll let me know that you kind of saw me work through with this dumb brain on this dashboard to show how much it helps, because I'm not BSing just to get a little, $5 from somebody. I think this thing is really worth it. We just broke down the whole game using this dashboard. So I kind of wanted to show it in a practical use, right? So give me Milwaukee, but it's with the assumption and the asterisk there that both Giannis and Dame play, because if Dame doesn't play, then all of a sudden Milwaukee's 3-point ability comes back, and now these teams are neck and neck again. I think that this is a 2-dimension versus 1-dimension type game if Damian Lillard, I was almost going to say Damian Antetokounmpo Lillard, mixing them. If those 2 guys play. Player prop-wise, I do think Giannis could have a good game, but he's coming back from injury. Like I mentioned, James Harden points plus assists could be a look as well, because where you are going to get this Milwaukee team is going to be in that pick and roll. So I like James Harden. Right now it's 30.5, which seems a little bit high, but his assist line at 9.5 for plus 100. That could be a peak as well. So anything points, assists, or points plus assists could be a spot here. I'd probably lean, I'd say points plus assists, if anything, just to make sure we have everything in there. Total-wise, it's at 227. I think the Bucks are going to be able to score, but I don't think they're going to score like a million points in this one. We have 2 good defenses, and I think the Clippers are going to struggle to score here. So, yeah, I'll lean slightly towards the under. I would peg this a little bit closer to, probably 225 or so. Our prediction model here has it at 117 to 113 in favor of the Bucks, so a little bit over this number, but we don't always have to trust the numbers. Giannis is coming back. It could be some more defense. Same with Kawhi Leonard, so obviously the numbers don't always pick that up. So yeah, I'm going to lean slightly towards the under. All right, Denver, 16-point favorites against Charlotte, who did play last night, so, we give them credit for being big favorites. I guess I don't think this number's going to stick there. I think Charlotte is somewhat like, this is going to be, I'm not taking Charlotte, but I'm sounding the psycho alert alarm because what I'm going to say is crazy. I think Charlotte can be competitive when they have LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges and Mark Williams all playing at full strength. Their bench is where you're going to get got, but it's not like this Denver team has a phenomenal bench, but they're playing good basketball. So, again, the psycho alert alarm was for the take. I'd probably lean towards Charlotte, but I don't think that I'm going to get there myself. They're on a back-to-back. They're going up against a rested Denver team with the veterans they have in the squad. That's obviously a benefit, so yeah, I mean, I will say Charlotte on back-to-backs this year have covered in 52 or 62% of their games. One of the two. Both higher than 50%. We hope it's 62, but it might be 52 now that I say it out loud. But Denver with rest advantage over their opponents. Now, this line is huge. Just keep that in mind. But they've covered in 73% of their games when they have a rest advantage over their opponent. So, yeah, could be a little difficult. Now, I will say, I don't think Jokic is going to have the easiest of times scoring. Like, this Charlotte team, for whatever freaking reason, has been decent at protecting the paint. So, I like Jokic over his and assist line. I believe you can get it at 9.5 still, which is like a way too low. It might be 10.5 by the time we look at this. Let me see. Because if you can get Jokic 9.5 assists, I really do like that, but I believe it's 10.5. It's 10.5 right now. Yeah, 9.5, you're paying too much juice. So still, I don't mind 10.5. What are the odds? Minus 120 on FanDuel and MGM and DraftKings, all kind of in the same boat. I like this spot. Last time he played the Charlotte team, which was earlier this month, he had 17 assists. I'm not trying to blow smoke up Charlotte's ass, but if they can defend the paint at all that well, Jokic is going to get the ball in the middle and pass it around. Right now, he had a good game, I believe, overall. He had like 30 points against them that night too, so you can't go wrong liking him. But I like Jokic's assists as probably my main player prop here in this spot. Another one, maybe considering anyone that anyone that really does kind of like thrive on a catch and shoot situation. So, I mean, we're looking at someone like Michael Porter Jr. I think he could have a really good game as well from a points perspective. So, Jokic assists and Michael Porter Jr. could be a look. I do worry of a little bit of a blowout, though. I'll be completely honest, because like I mentioned, we do have obviously Denver, huge favorites in this one, rested. Second half of the season's when they turn it on, and Charlotte's coming off of a back-to-back, and they just won in a grinded-out type game. Little concern there. In terms of what we have from a total, I'd lean slightly to... I'm going to lean over. I've gone back and forth. In fact, I was just about to say under, but this Denver team, they do strike me as playing some really good offense lately. In fact, in the last 3 games, no team's been playing better offense than them. They've scored 122, 146, 132 in their last 3 games. So they're playing really well. Last time they played, like I said earlier this month, it was a low-scoring game. I just think that this one kind of has a little bit more tempo. And now Charlotte should be in a little bit more rhythm. I know back-to-back is usually a negative, but after that break, maybe they're in a little bit more of a rhythm here and warmed up. All right, we got the Spoys taking on the Suns. I will say, and the comments hate me when I do this, I think you can make an argument on either side for this one, all right? The Suns playing just dreadful basketball recently. Devin Booker's listed as questionable. Martin's out. Grayson Allen listed as questionable. Victor Wembanyama is listed as questionable as well. They also have that underdog free square, by the way, for him tomorrow. So we'll see which game he plays in. Tomorrow they have, I believe it is... Detroit? I could have that wrong, but I think it's Detroit. So they're playing 2 games in a row here. Wemby's probably only going to play 1. We'll see which one he does play. If Wemby doesn't play, I like the Suns, but I'd want to see Devin Booker in the lineup, right? So I think that you can make arguments on both sides here because of the fact that, yeah, we have 2, arguably the best player. I mean, I know Durant has a lot of pull on that Suns team, but Devin Booker has just been a beast. Arguably the 2 best players in the team could be missing time here. Now, De'Aaron Fox obviously gives this Spurs team a little bit of a boost, even if Wemby doesn't play, right? Like, that's not something they necessarily had before, so I'll give them a little bit of credit here, but Phoenix has actually been pretty good defensively in the isolation and not all that terrible in the pick and roll, which is where De'Aaron Fox is going to do his damage, right? So I'll lean towards Phoenix here in this one. If Wemby plays, it would need Devin Booker, I guess I should say. If Wemby plays, I'd probably be a little bit more off of it. But even still, it's like, I think this Phoenix team is like, I don't know. They went into the All-Star break. Their last 10 games, they lost 7 of them. That's terrible. They have some vets on that team that should be in there saying, hey, let's at least close out the season strong, right? Whereas San Antonio, same thing. They lost 7 of their last 10 heading in, but they don't have that same, I mean, they have Chris Paul, I guess, and coach, but they just don't have that same veteran sort of on the floor that I think the Suns team does. But I guess, I even mentioned coach Chris Paul, like you could make the argument. Like I said, you can go both ways here. I'm going to go Suns if Devin Booker plays. Total sitting at 237. I like the under in this one, especially if these guys are either not 100% or not playing at full strength or not playing at all, right? So, yeah, give me the under. I think I would peg this one more in sort of the 230 range, which is a decent amount of margin between what the line is at and what I have this at personally. Blazers taking on the Lakers here. Lakers coming off of that loss last night. Obviously, we do have to keep an eye on the injury report today because they are in a back-to-back. We have that's another thing for that Charlotte game, by the way, just to rewind. LaMelo, if he doesn't play, then I'm probably not liking Charlotte as much either. I still like the player props on the Denver side, but it might even lead more to a blowout, right? But anyways, to this game, the Lakers, we're going to keep an eye on Luka, keep an eye on LeBron. I think Luka, they said he's no more restriction, so he should play, but it is LeBron James at 63 years old who may sit out back-to-backs here, especially against a Portland team that's not going to have DeAndre Ayton. Looks like no Robert Williams, possibly no Jeremy Grant, possibly no Scoot Henderson. Pretty banged-up team. Now, this Portland team, we can't deny, had been playing good basketball, right? But to close out and head into the break, they lost 3 straight games, and honestly, they kind of got pummeled in 3 straight games. They played Minnesota, Denver, and Denver, so I'm not saying it was the easiest of competition, but that was a really good run they're on. I don't think it's continuing. If everyone plays for the Lakers here, I think I'm going to lean towards them. I know we've liked a decent amount of favorites in today's video. In fact, I think Atlanta and Milwaukee being the only dogs. But I just see this Lakers team being able to score more than Portland. I don't think either defense is going to be all that tremendous. And this Portland team, they were kind of like one of the best defensive teams in the league while they're on that run, right? 132, 146, 114 their last 3 games. The Lakers can put it together, and kind of like I said with Charlotte, they now have their momentum, and they've played basketball yesterday coming out of the break. They are not the ones that have to like shake off the rust that's already done. Kind of like them -3 in this spot. Total-wise, right now, it's sitting at 227. I have this at 229. That's a pretty close number. I don't think that Portland's offense is going to be there, so I'm going to say Lakers team total over, especially after a bad night last night. I think that's where I would end up ultimately going towards. From a player prop perspective, I think the pick and roll could be huge. So if Luka does get full minutes and he's good to go, I think Luka could have a really good night from a points plus assist perspective. Now, you're going to get, based on how he's been playing, a line that seems like it's crazy, right? Because it is him. We don't have lines out for him, by the way, right now. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that as the injury reports come out. But because he's Luka, you're going to have lines that he hasn't really even sniffed, but really only waiting for that shoe to drop with him as being a Laker to kind of have a really good game, right? So I don't want to look at his last 3 games or last few games and be like, oh, he's not even coming close to whatever his line is. It's like, it's Luka. At some point, it'll click, and we want to be early to that rather than late, I would say. So I don't mind him points plus assists. Especially if LeBron's out, I think his usage will go through the roof, right? So, yeah, don't mind that spot overall. But, guys, it's going to wrap it up for today's show. Hope you guys did enjoy our first full video back. Very, very excited. In terms of Friday, what do we have? I believe we have Friday like another... Is it a 9-game slate? I could be. I hope I have that right. I think it's another 9-game slate tomorrow. So good. We're gonna have some back-to-backs to go through, but another big slate to dive into after that break. That was just like, what do we do? Twiddle our thumbs, right? But anyways, we have our MLB futures video out as well as our golf video out right now. If you want to kind of peek that and get some plays in quickly if you do want to ride with some of our golf plays. But yeah, I really like some of the futures we have in that video. The player prop, I won't give it away, but the player prop may be my favorite future that we have for the MLB season. But that's going to wrap it up for me, guys. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I do appreciate it. We'll catch you guys in the next one, right? Peace out.